standing strong and tall. Yeah, this is the bovine coming on the air, sharing the stories of the folks who care. Profiles of passion, voices of the trade, dairy strong legends being made. Yeah, this is the bovine coming on the air, sharing the stories of the folks who care. Profiles of passion, voices of the trade, dairy.
Welcome back to the Bovine Podcast, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation. We aren't here to sugarcoat the market, and we certainly aren't here to waste your time with fluff.
And today we're doing a deep dive into a feature piece about something that, well, usually makes most of us want to throw our phones directly into the lagoon.
Yeah.
Social media.
I can literally hear the collective groan rising up from milking parlors across the country right now.
Oh, I'm groaning too.
I know. You've got corn to plant, cows to breed, machinery to fix. The absolute last thing you want to hear is two people talking about building your brand or, engagement metrics.
It's the worst. Honestly, when I see these influencer farmers popping up on my feed doing these dances in the alleyway or, spending 4 hours editing a cinematic video of a tractor driving into the sunset, I just roll my eyes. I'm thinking, who actually has time for that? I've got a silage pile to cover. I've got a fresh heifer down. Real farming just isn't pretty, and it definitely doesn't fit in a 15-second clip set to pop music.
And that is exactly the skepticism we need to address today, because the article we're breaking down, it's titled Barnyard Brands Trading Polished PR for Authentic Farmer Trust. It actually agrees with you.
Does it?
It does. It argues that the polished influencer stuff is, well, it's dying. But, and here's the really big but before you tune out, the numbers in this report regarding social license and actual hard dollars might just change your mind.
Okay, I'm listening.
We aren't talking about vanity metrics here. We're talking about protecting your milk check.
I'll admit, when you first sent me the brief for this deep dive, I was completely ready to tear it apart.
I know you were.
But then I looked at the financial data. We're going to talk about something called social license, which sounds like corporate jargon.
Very corporate.
But when you actually break it down, it's basically the only thing standing between us and an absolute regulatory nightmare.
Exactly. Context is everything here.
Yeah.
It is February 2026. Let's look at the landscape we're operating in.
It's rough out there.
We are dealing with an environment where anti-dairy campaigns are better funded, they're more sophisticated, and they are way more aggressive than they have ever been in history.
Yeah.
We're talking about 9-figure budgets targeting the consumer's mind. And they aren't just targeting the vegans anymore. They are targeting the moms buying yogurt and the teenagers buying lattes.
That's the David versus Goliath dynamic this article really highlights, and it's the part that actually got me interested. On one side, you have these massive non-governmental organizations with tens of millions of dollars in the bank.
Oh, easily.
And on the other side, you have a guy in Wisconsin with a hoof knife and a flip phone. Literally a flip phone.
A flip phone.
And the crazy part, the guy with the knife is winning.
It is absolutely incredible. But let's set the stakes before we get into the how-to of it all. Why does this matter right now, today, in 2026? Why should a farmer who is barely breaking even on inputs care about a YouTube strategy?
It matters because of market access.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. It's not about likes or hearts or becoming internet famous.
Right.
It's about ensuring you actually have a place to sell your milk. The article argues a very fundamental point. If farmers don't tell their story, someone else will.
And spoiler alert.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, the people telling your story right now, they don't know the difference between a steer and a heifer, and they certainly don't care about your margins. They won't get it right.
And that brings us to that concept of social license. I want to drill down on this because I think a lot of guys hear this phrase and immediately tune out.
Oh, for sure.
They think it's something for the processors to worry about, not the boots on the ground.
Yeah, it sounds like something you hear at a conference in a stuffy hotel ballroom while you're trying not to fall asleep. But think of it this way. Social license isn't a piece of paper.
No.
It's not the permit you get from the county to build a new freestall barn. It is the informal permission the public gives you to operate.
That's a great way to put it.
It's the fact that your neighbors and the people buying cheese don't actively vote for regulations that put you out of business.
Right. It's the buffer. When you lose that social license, that is when you get ballot initiatives banning AI. That's when you get regulatory crackdowns on manure spreading.
Exactly.
That's when you get retail buyers, the Walmarts and Costcos of the world, saying, we can't buy from you anymore because you are a PR liability.
And we're going to preview a bit of a controversy here because, well, the bovine likes to stir the pot.
Always.
The industry for the last 20 years has been completely obsessed with clean marketing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Red barns, green grass, everything looking like a vintage postcard from 1950.
Oh, absolutely. The whole happy cows narrative.
Yeah, the Chekhov loves this stuff.
Yeah.
But this article suggests that the Fair Oaks style of polished transparency, where everything is behind glass and looks like Disney World, might actually be a liability in 2026.
A huge liability.
The public is smarter than that now. They know farms have manure. They know cows get sick.
This is the part of the deep dive that really surprised me. The data actually suggests that showing pus, showing blood, showing manure, the real visceral gross stuff, might actually build more trust than a sanitized guided tour.
It's totally counterintuitive.
We're going to talk about Nate the Hoof guy and why showing a bloody abscess is actually good PR. It sounds completely backwards.
It sounds insane. If you told my grandfather that showing a cow with a lesion on her foot to millions of people on the internet was a good idea, he would have chased you off the property with a pitchfork.
I believe it.
But the world has changed. So let's unpack this. We really need to start with the problem identification. We call this the trust gap.
Or, as you like to call it, the wallet gap.
It is the exact same thing these days.
Let's look at the disparity in resources here. The source material highlights two specific anti-dairy groups, PETA and Mercy for Animals. Now, we all know they have money, but I really don't think most farmers realize just how much money.
They really don't.
In a single year, fiscal year, ending July 2024 for PETA and December 2024 for Mercy for Animals, do you know what their combined spending was?
I read the number in the report, and I honestly had to reread it. I thought it was a typo from the researchers.
It was not a typo. $102.7 million.
That is a war chest.
Huh.
That is a massive amount of capital deployed specifically to target the consumer's mind and convince them that what we do, what we literally wake up at 4 a.m. to do every single day, is evil.
Let's break that down just a bit more. PETA spent $77.6 million. Mercy for Animals spent $25.1 million.
Unbelievable.
And that doesn't even count Humane World for Animals, which used to be the Humane Society of the United States before their big rebrand in 2025. They dwarf both of those other groups combined.
Think about that number. Over $100 million. That is more than the GDP of some small island nations. And they aren't spending that on research to improve animal welfare. They aren't spending it on feed efficiency or better genetics to reduce emissions. They're spending it on ads, on lobbying, on lawsuits, and on undercover operations designed specifically to destroy our reputations.
So if you're a farmer sitting in the cab of your tractor right now, listening to this, looking at the milk price and worrying about the cost of diesel, you're thinking, I can't compete with that.
You can't.
I can't spend $100 million to run ads during the Super Bowl. I can't buy billboards in Times Square. If it is a spending war, we lose. Period.
If it's a dollar-for-dollar fight on traditional media, we are dead in the water. We cannot outspend them. But, and this is the crux of this entire deep dive, that is the myth of the budget.
Yes.
The article counters this massive spending with a story of Nathan Rinaldo, known to the entire internet as Nate the Hoof Guy.
This is such a great story. Nate is a guy from West Central Wisconsin, a hoof trimmer. He has been doing it for 2 decades.
Right, he's a veteran.
This isn't some Gen Z kid who decided to play farmer for views. This is a guy who smells like hoof sink and manure at the end of every single day.
Exactly. And in 2020, he was using a flip phone.
Yeah.
He told Wisconsin Public Radio he had never edited a single piece of footage in his entire life. He didn't know what Premiere Pro was. He didn't know about 3-point lighting or camera angles.
He didn't hire a marketing agency. He didn't have a focus group. He didn't even have a script.
No.
He just wanted to push back on viral clips that made hoof trimming look like torture. He saw these videos circulating online where activists were saying, oh my God, they're grinding the cow's foot. It must hurt so much.
We've all seen those videos.
Yeah.
Infuriating.
Right. And he just thought, that's not right. I need to show the work. I need to show what I'm actually doing.
So he just starts filming. Straight up filming the trim. And where is he now? The stats are just wild.
Okay.
As of February 2026, he has a 1.7 million YouTube subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
On TikTok, he's at 2 million followers. Facebook, another 1.6 million.
The scale is massive.
But the number that really blows me away is the total views. His YouTube channel has passed 880 million total views.
880 million. That is nearly 1 billion times that a human being has sat down and intentionally watched a guy trim a cow's foot.
Let's do the math on that for a second. PETA spent $77 million to reach people. Nate spent $0. Okay, maybe he spent $20 on a phone mount for his shoot.
Fair enough.
And he reached 880 million people. If PETA paid for those views at standard digital ad rates, that would have cost them tens of millions of dollars. Nate got it for free.
The lesson here is profound. You do not need a marketing team. You don't need the slick production. In fact, the article argues that having a marketing team might actually hurt you in today's climate.
Why is that? Because I think a lot of farmers assume, well, if I had the cash, I'd definitely hire a professional videographer to make my farm look good.
Because authenticity is the currency now. People are so tired of being sold to. They are tired of the corporate look.
Yeah, the perfectly manicured image.
When they see a video that is perfectly lit, with uplifting stock music and a rehearsed script, they immediately think, who paid for this? What are they trying to hide?
They put their guard up.
Exactly. But when they see a shaky video shot from a phone with wind noise hitting the microphone and a guy talking in dirty coveralls, they think, okay, this is real life. This is the truth.
It's anti-marketing marketing. And that leads us right into the industry reality check. Because for a long time, the dairy industry as a whole thought the answer to PETA was polished transparency. We really thought the answer was agritourism on steroids.
We have to talk about Fair Oaks Farms here. This is the case study that really serves as a massive warning for the entire industry. And I know this is a sore subject for some people, but we have to look at it objectively if we're going to learn from it.
We do. And look, Fair Oaks did an incredible job at the front of the house. It really was the Disneyland of dairy. I've been there. It was incredibly impressive.
Huge operation.
Glass windows everywhere, birthing barns where you could sit in stadium seating and watch calves being born in a very controlled, clean environment. Gift shops, guided bus tours. They had 600,000 visitors a year. It was the absolute gold standard for industry PR.
Everyone pointed to them and said, this is how we do it. This is how we educate the public and win them over. But in June 2019, that all collapsed overnight. Why? Because undercover footage came out.
And that footage destroyed their trust immediately. Now, we can sit here and debate the tactics of the activists, and they were absolutely deceptive. There's no doubt about that. But the public reaction wasn't just about the abuse shown in the video. It was about the betrayal.
Explain that a bit more. What do you mean by betrayal in this context?
It was the gap. The massive gap between the Disney version they sold to the public, the perfect, pristine, happy image, and the reality of the working barn that the undercover footage showed. The article makes this key insight, and I highlighted it because it's so true. A visitor center shatters under scrutiny. A working barn weathers it.
That is a really powerful line. A visitor center shatters under scrutiny.
Think about it. If you present yourself as perfect, as a flawless, polished brand, any crack in that facade looks like a massive lie.
Right.
If you say, we are 100% perfect and our cows are always happy and the floors are always clean, and then someone sees a cow with a dirty tail or a worker getting frustrated and yelling, the consumer says, you lied to me. The whole thing is a sham.
But if you start from a place of reality...
Exactly. If you show the barn, warts and all, if you show that sometimes cows get sick, sometimes equipment breaks down, sometimes it's muddy and miserable, then there is no deception to uncover. The back of the barn and the front of the house are the exact same thing.
Which brings us to the gross advantage. This is where the consumer psychology gets really interesting. Nate, the Hoof guy, isn't showing cows grazing in a pristine meadow with butterflies. He is showing abscesses. He is showing hairy heel warts and lesions. He is taking a grinder and paring away overgrown claw.
I actually asked my wife about this because I can't watch that stuff while I'm eating lunch. It turns my stomach a bit. And I do this for a living.
It is pretty graphic.
But apparently, there is a whole genre of this on the internet. Pimple-popping videos.
It is oddly satisfying. Don't look at me like that. Millions of people watch Dr. Pimple Popper. It's the exact same psychology at play. You have a highly visible problem. It looks painful or uncomfortable. Then you have a methodical expert coming in to fix it. And then release.
It is the resolution arc. Tension and release. But Nate adds the vital context. And this is the critical part for farmers to understand. He doesn't just chop the foot and leave the camera rolling. He explains what he is doing while he does it. He explains that hoof horn is dead tissue.
He uses that analogy. I loved this one in the article, the rock in the boot.
It is brilliant because literally everyone can relate to it. He says the hard hoof part is like the thick rubber sole of a work boot. If you take a sharp knife and dig a rock out of the sole of your boot, you don't feel the boot being cut. You feel the instant relief of the rock being gone.
That one sentence creates a massive bridge of empathy. Suddenly, the viewer understands the mechanics of it.
And then he shows the cow walking away. The viewer sees the cow limping in the beginning and striding comfortably after. Suddenly, a guy with an angle grinder and a sharp knife isn't torturing a cow. He is a caregiver. He is a healer. He is actively relieving pain.
It turns a scary-looking procedure into an act of profound care. And here is the kicker. Because it looks bloody or dirty sometimes, it feels undeniably real.
Yeah.
If he scrubbed it all clean and didn't show the pus or the blood, people wouldn't believe it. They would think he was hiding the bad stuff. By showing the bad stuff, the act of infection, he proves his honesty.
So the real takeaway for me there is that authentic care, even if it's ugly, even if it involves pus and blood and manure, builds way more trust than a sanitized tour where everything is hidden behind a pane of glass.
100%.
If you hide the manure, people naturally wonder what else you're hiding. If you show the manure, they trust you when you say the milk in the tank is clean.
Now, you're the numbers guy. You always tell me, show me the money, so let's follow the money. Because I know there is a farmer listening to this right now who says, that's great for Nate, he's got 1 million subscribers, but I'm running a business. I don't have time to be a YouTuber.
Right. And I get that. I really, truly do. Time is our absolute most scarce resource. There's never enough of it. But let's do the barn math. The article breaks down the actual financial cost of silence.
Walk us through the scenario they laid out.
Okay, imagine a standard 300 cow dairy. A decent-sized family operation. You are working tight margins, like we all are. Let's say you get hit with a PR crisis. Maybe an activist group targets you specifically, or maybe the industry takes a broader hit and your processor gets nervous about brand safety.
A processor panic?
Exactly. You lose your milk contract for 30 days.
Just 1 month. A temporary suspension while they conduct an investigation.
Just 30 days. Now, let's be super conservative with the numbers. Let's say milk is at $18 a hundredweight. And let's say your herd is averaging 75 pounds per cow per day.
Which is a bit low for high-performance herds. I know guys pushing 90 or 100 easily. But let's stick with a conservative number so nobody accuses us of inflating the stats to make a point.
Fair. At those highly conservative numbers, a 30-day suspension is a $121,500 loss.
Ouch! That is a massive, crippling hit to cash flow.
That's payroll, that's the feed bill, that is the banknote, and it is just gone. Now, if we look at 2025 USDA prices, which were hovering closer to $21 a hundredweight, you are looking at over $141,000 gone in a single month.
That's devastating.
And that is assuming you can even get picked up again by a processor after 30 days. If you can't, you're done. You're selling the cows.
So the argument the article makes is that spending 20 minutes a week filming a raw video on your phone is basically an insurance premium.
Exactly. It is insurance against that $141,000 catastrophic loss. Think of it this way. You pay for fire insurance on the milking parlor, right? You pay for liability insurance on your feed trucks. Why wouldn't you pay in time, not even cash, but just time for reputation insurance?
Because if you have a community, if you have established that social license, the processor knows you have real people who trust you. You aren't just an easy, faceless target.
Right. If PETA comes after Nate the Hoof guy today, what happens? His 2 million followers swarm the comments and say, "You're wrong. We know Nate. We watch his videos every week. We know exactly how he treats those animals.
You're practically untouchable."
He is inoculated against the attack. But if you are a faceless barn at the end of a dirt road that nobody knows anything about, you are the easiest contract in the world to cut to save face. The processor sacrifices you instantly to make the public noise go away.
Now, there is a revenue upside discussed here, but I really want to be careful with this part. The article explicitly warns us not to count on it.
Yeah, let's definitely not get gold fever here. I don't want people quitting their day jobs or neglecting the herd to try and become full-time influencers. Nate is an extreme outlier in this space. The article cites vidIQ estimates for his YouTube ad revenue at somewhere between $8,000 and $24,000 per month.
Which is a very, very nice side hustle. That pays for a lot of skid steer parts.
It's more than a side hustle. That is a legitimate second income stream. That's a new tractor every couple of years. But look at the hours he puts in. The guy puts in 30 to 50 hours a week just on content creation and community management.
Oh, wow.
That's a second full-time job. When you break it down to an hourly rate, it's like $62 to $111 an hour for the digital work.
That is good money, but it is not retire on a beach in the Bahamas money.
Exactly. And most farmers will never see those numbers. Most farmers will make $0 directly from the social platforms. If you go into this thinking, I'm going to get rich off TikTok ad revenue, you're going to be severely disappointed.
But the ROI, the return on investment, isn't the monthly ad check from Google.
No, absolutely not. The ROI is keeping the market open. It is making sure that when an activist group drops a heavily edited video in your county, your neighbors and your local politicians say, nah, I know that farm. I watched their videos. That's not how they operate.
It's community defense.
It is about community defense at a grassroots level.
It's the trust shield. Let's look at some case studies of how different farms are actively building this shield, because it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach. You don't have to be a hoof trimmer slicing open abscesses to make this work.
Let's start with the big guys. Because the common narrative in the public, and honestly, the narrative pushed by a lot of mainstream media, is that big equals cruel.
It's all factory farming myth.
Right. The assumption is if you have 4,000 cows, you must be a heartless factory, and factories are inherently bad for animals.
Enter MVP Dairy in Ohio.
4,500 cows. That is a very large operation by any metric. It's owned by the McCarty and Van Tilburg families. Now, typically, a farm of this sheer scale stays very quiet. They put up a tall fence, plant some trees to block the view, and put up no trespassing signs.
But MVP went the complete opposite direction. They are tackling the big is bad myth head on. They are a certified B Corp.
Do you know how incredibly hard it is for an agricultural business to get B Corp certification?
It is notoriously difficult. The auditing process is grueling.
It really is. You need a score of 80 to pass. And it covers everything. It covers environmental impact, worker treatment, community engagement, and animal welfare. MVP scored a 102.7. They are also Dairy Care certified. They have the receipts, as the kids say today.
But receipts are fundamentally boring. Nobody is curling up to read a 70-page B Corp audit report on a Friday night.
Right. And that is exactly where the social media strategy comes in.
Yeah.
They don't just rely on the framed certificates in the office lobby. They use TikTok. And this is the absolute genius of their approach. You have this massive facility, state-of-the-art, millions of dollars of concrete and steel and technology, but the TikTok feed is just a guy in coveralls talking to the camera.
It's pampering the girls, it's daily chores, it's highly personal and low production value.
It makes a massive mega dairy feel exactly like a relatable family farm. Because, well, it is a family farm, just operating at scale. They show that even with 4,500 cows, there are still individual humans who care deeply about individual animals.
An audit score north of 100, paired with a human face, makes the farm feel like a place you could just walk right into. It removes all the mystery and the menace of the scale. MVP also has a learning center, where people can actually physically go and see the rotary carousel in action. They effectively combine the physical openness with the digital openness.
Let's jump to the complete opposite end of the spectrum for a minute. Let's go to New Zealand. Chloe Payne.
Oh, cows of New Zealand. She's managing 600 cows, but she really focuses her content on the ones she owns personally. And she names them.
Popcorn, Barbie, brown sugar. Now, I know a lot of old school dairymen who would say, do not name the cows. It's a business, not a petting zoo. You can't get emotionally attached to inventory.
But that exact attitude is what kills us with the general public. The public desperately needs to know that you see these animals as individuals. They need to know you aren't just a cold, calculating robot.
There was a really powerful moment mentioned in the deep dive article about a calf named Gingerbread.
Yeah, that was Brown Sugar's daughter. This part actually made me tear up a bit when I was prepping for the show. When Gingerbread died, Chloe didn't hide it. She didn't pretend it didn't happen to keep the feed happy. She posted a raw tribute video.
And it wasn't just a sad post for engagement. It proved to her audience that the death actually mattered to her. It proved that these animals aren't just spreadsheet numbers to her operation. It showed genuine grief.
And that single post reached 325,000 followers. Even Khloe Kardashian shared a photo of one of her calves. That is organic reach you literally cannot buy. You can't pay a Kardashian to post about your dairy farm unless you have tens of millions of dollars in a marketing budget. Chloe got it just by being real.
And it fundamentally changes the public conversation. It shifts it from the activist talking point of farmers exploit animals for profit to the reality of Farmers love their animals, and sometimes animals tragically die, and it breaks the farmer's heart too. That is a shared human experience.
Yes.
Grief is universal, profit margins are not.
Now, there's a third angle here that I think is incredibly important, and honestly, it's often overlooked when we talk about this stuff. We talk about PR, we talk about saving the milk check, we talk about the processors, but what about the farmer themselves?
You're talking about the mental health angle.
Big Farmer Andy.
From Australia. This is such a great story because it started completely by accident. He wasn't trying to save the dairy industry or build a brand. He had nose surgery, was stuck inside the house for 2 weeks recovering, and just started posting old videos out of sheer boredom.
And now he has nearly 500,000 followers. He uses a lot of humor.
Yeah.
His bio is actually a full-time farmer, part-time washed-up TikToker, but he gets really serious about the isolation of the job.
Farming is incredibly lonely. We really don't talk about that enough in this industry. You spend 12, 14 hours a day alone in a tractor cab or in the parlor. You might not see another actual human being all day long. And he talks openly about suicide in agriculture. He talks about the intense mental pressure. And the article points out that this is the hidden benefit of social media for the farmer. It's a lifeline.
It connects you directly to the outside world.
If you are milking cows at 4 a.m. and you haven't spoken to another human being in 12 hours, having a community online, even if they're total strangers living in different time zones, can massively reduce that suffocating sense of isolation. It turns out social media isn't just PR for the milk processor. It is legitimate mental health support for the operator.
That is profound. It really makes you realize that connection isn't just a corporate buzzword.
Okay, let's get into the contrarian take segment. This is the bullvine, after all. We like to zig when the industry tells everyone to zag.
And the absolute biggest contrarian take in this entire report is this. Show the slurry.
Show the slurry. We mentioned Tom Pemberton in the UK earlier. He is the absolute king of this strategy.
Tom runs a mixed dairy and beef operation. He has over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. And he intentionally shows the bad days. He shows the equipment breaking down in the middle of a critical job. He shows the slurry pit overflowing. He shows the deep, miserable mud. Why does that actually work? Because conventional marketing wisdom says you hide the mess. Every ad agency in the world would tell you to power wash the tractor before you dare film it.
Because in 2026, perfection looks like a lie. Think about where we are with AI right now. Think about deepfakes. People are becoming hyper-suspicious of anything that looks a little too good.
Yeah.
If you only post when the sun is shining, the grass is perfectly green, and the cows are spotless, people automatically think you are staging it.
I think it's just corporate propaganda.
Exactly. But if you show a $250,000 tractor hopelessly stuck up to its axles in the mud, and you're covered in manure and maybe swearing a little bit at the situation, that looks like real life. Nobody fakes getting stuck in a slurry pit for views.
The public trusts struggle way more than they trust perfection.
They relate to the struggle. Everyone has bad days at work. They don't relate to a perfect, sanitized, frictionless image. A breakdown looks like honest hard work. It instantly makes you the relatable underdog.
The second contrarian point is what the article calls PETA proofing. And this involves a story about a New York dairy that I think every single farmer listening needs to memorize.
This is such a great story. An AP Reporter Associated Press, so we're talking big time, national syndicate, contacted a dairy farm in New York. She had a story pitched directly to her by PETA. PETA gave her all the supposed dirt. She was locked and loaded, ready to do a massive expose on this farm.
This is the literal nightmare call. Hi, this is the Associated Press. We have serious allegations of animal abuse at your facility. Most farmers would just hang up in a panic and call their lawyer.
And panic is the worst reaction. But the owner of this farm didn't hide. The owner actually invited the AP reporter to come out to the farm that day and see for herself. But here's the crazy part of the story. The reporter didn't even go.
Why not? She had the scoop.
Because she did her basic research first. She looked up the farm online. She found they had a long documented history of verification. They had NYSCHAP certification. She called Cornell's Pro Dairy program, and the experts there personally vouched for the farm's management. She looked at their digital footprint and saw years of transparent operation.
So the foundation of trust existed long before the crisis ever hit.
That is the entire key to this. You cannot build trust during a crisis. It's impossible. If you wait until the activist camera crew is literally standing in your driveway to start being transparent, it is way too late. You just look defensive and guilty. But if you have years of openness, third-party audits, and a steady digital presence, that becomes your shield. The reporter looks at the wild PETA claims, looks at your boring, consistent history of good management, and says, these two things don't match, and the hit piece dies on the desk.
That's incredibly powerful. It is the definition of being proactive versus reactive. Now, looking at the future implications, the digital landscape is changing so fast, it's hard to keep up.
Platform volatility is a very real risk here. We saw this play out with TikTok. In 2025, it faced serious threats of divestiture or outright banning. It was ultimately saved by a joint venture in January 2026, but for a while there, it looked like the whole platform was going dark in the US.
The lesson there is clear. Don't build your house on rented land.
Tom Pemberton, the guy who shows the slurry, he focuses heavily on YouTube. Why? Because it's searchable. It's long-form video. It's a much more stable platform. TikTok is fantastic for explosive viral reach, but it is highly volatile. Building entirely on TikTok is like relying on spot market prices for your entire annual income. You absolutely need to diversify.
And the other big future trend they identify is verification stacking.
The future isn't just making fun videos, it's providing the receipts. It is no longer enough to just get on camera and say, I treat my cows well. Anyone can say that. You need the video showing the daily care, and you need the farm program audit and the B Corp score and the dairy care certificate backing it up.
It's the synthesis, the combination of the accessible digital presence and the rigorous third-party audit.
Exactly. The video provides the emotional connection. The audit provides the empirical proof. Together, they are basically bulletproof. The video touches the consumer's heart. The audit satisfies their brain.
All right, let's get extremely practical here. We have covered a lot of high-level theory today. We've covered the consumer psychology, the hard economics, the case studies. But a farmer just finished the morning milking. They are driving their truck to the feed store, and they are thinking, okay, all of this sounds good in theory, but what do I actually do today? I do not have a camera crew.
Right. We need to break this down into actionable bite-sized chunks so it isn't overwhelming.
I want 3 specific takeaways: immediate action, medium-term strategy, and long-term positioning.
Okay. Let's start with takeaway 1, the quick start. This is for this week. If you take nothing else away from this deep dive, do this.
What's the specific action?
The Path 1 30-day test. I want you to pull out your phone and film 3 videos this week. Just 3 short videos.
What kind of production value are we talking about here?
Absolutely none. 0 production value. Use your phone only. Shoot it vertical. No editing whatsoever. Do not even download an editing app.
What exactly are they filming, though?
Jan Kielstra from up in Saskatchewan gives the best advice on this. He says, just show what you do, literally. Film the feed push-up with a skid steer. Film the newborn calves getting their colostrum. Film yourself checking the flow rate on a water trough.
And the goal isn't to go viral with these, right?
No, not at all. The goal is simply to get over the mental hurdle and the fear of hitting record. The goal is to see what regular people actually find interesting. You will be shocked. You think pushing up feed is the most boring, repetitive chore on the farm. To a guy sitting in a cubicle in Chicago who has never been within 50 miles of a tractor, it is fascinating to watch. Just post it. See what happens.
Okay, I love that. Takeaway 2, the rhythm. This is the 3 to 6 month plan, once you've dipped your toe in the water and survived.
This is path 2. You need to make a commitment. Pick one platform, just one. Do not try to be an expert on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and X all at the same exact time. You will burn out in a week.
How often should they be posting?
Once or twice a week. But make it consistent. And here is the absolutely crucial part of the medium-term strategy. You have to engage with every single comment.
Even the dumb ones. Even the trolls asking if brown cows give chocolate milk.
Especially the curious ones. If someone asks a seemingly dumb question like, why are the calves separated from the mothers in those hutches? Do not get defensive. Do not block them. Explain it calmly, just like Nate explains the hoof horn. Say it's for their health. It's so we can monitor their exact milk intake. It's to keep their immune system safe from mature cow germs. Be the patient teacher, not the defensive fighter.
Find your oddly satisfying moment.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe your moment is scraping the return alley. Maybe it's the visual of the milk flowing cleanly into the bulk tank. Find the one thing that looks visually cool on your farm and lean into it. Build the habit of documenting it.
And finally, takeaway 3, the fortress. This is the 1 to 2 year strategy.
This is path 3. This is primarily for the larger operations, the ones who rightfully feel like they are prime targets for activist groups.
This is the receipt stacking we talked about.
Yes. You need to systematically pair your raw content with formal, rigorous audits. Start looking seriously at B Corp certification. Look at maximizing your farm program score to the highest tier Look at dairy care. You need to make absolutely sure that if a Fair Oaks-style moment tries to happen to your operation, your local community and your processor already know the undeniable truth.
You want to fundamentally turn your size into an asset instead of a liability.
Exactly. The message becomes, we are big, which means we have the financial resources to have the absolute best technology, the highest animal welfare standards, and the strictest independent audits in the business. Prove it. Don't hide behind defense. Transparency is quite literally the only defense that actually works in 2026.
It really all comes down to this. If a hook trimmer in Wisconsin with a flip phone can get 880 million views just by being honest, there is absolutely no excuse for the rest of us to remain invisible and let activists tell our story.
That's the bottom line. We cannot sit in the coffee shop and complain that the public doesn't understand dairy farming if we flat out refuse to talk to them. The microphone to reach the world is sitting in your pocket right now. Use it.
And on that powerful note, we are going to wrap it up for today. This has been a really fascinating deep dive into the rapidly changing world of dairy reputation and social license.
This has been another Bullvine podcast from the Bullvine Podcast. For more straight-talking industry analysis and maybe slightly fewer TikTok dances, head over to www.thebullvine.com.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are out with new deep dives every single day. Upcoming topics include, well, next week we are going to completely tackle genomic bulls. Hype or holy grail? That should be a pretty spicy conversation.
Oh, I have some very strong opinions on that one already. I think we are heavily over-indexing on spreadsheet numbers and completely forgetting how to look at the actual cow.
I bet you do. We will save that fight for tomorrow's recording. Until then, keep it real and keep the cameras rolling.
Catch you later.